Okay, here's an update on the pistol permit process. Man, it's been months since I applied, and finally I got a call the other day from a detective for the pistol permit interview. I wasn't sure if I was actually going to get an interview, because my references have been called recently, so I didn't know I had an interview on top of that, but I guess I do. So, I figured this is gonna probably suck. I mean, I'm moving out of state in October, but I figured, if I do the pistol permit now, I could possibly get a gun or a pistol before I move, and I could just have it transferred, and I won't have to wait for the Georgia license and then have to do it there. So, I already paid for this. I want to finish the process, see what it's like, especially since I don't have to pay any more money. So, yeah, I went in there. The guy was really polite. Then he started the interview, and I gotta tell you, these were pretty much the most intrusive questions a law enforcement official had ever asked me. He asked me so many questions that this guy probably knows more about me than people who regularly watch my YouTube channel, people who know me in real life from work. He probably knows more about me than they do, because he asked that many questions. The first few questions were the standard stuff I had already answered on the pistol permit, and so they were like, are you over 21? Have you ever committed a felony? Stuff like that. I don't mind that at all. I mean, I had already answered the questions, and if he had done a background check on me, he wouldn't have to ask me them. So I'm kind of wondering why he had to re-ask me all those questions, but whatever, I was playing ball. Then what really started to suck was that he started asking me questions about where I lived, and he wanted to know every single place I'd lived in like the past 15 years. And to be honest, I'm a child of divorce, and I've lived in a couple of really crappy apartments before I lived here, and then I had lived with my girlfriend's parents, so that was really annoying to have that all documented, every place I've lived. Like, how does that matter to any part of the investigation? But anyways, I did all that, and then he gets to this part, hobbies. What are your hobbies? Now again, what the fuck does this have to do with anything to do with getting a pistol or me being a criminal? Absolutely nothing. I actually said, I was like kind of taken aback by the question. I mean, I wasn't expecting it. So I was like, I don't know, hiking? And he's like, okay, what else? I don't know this cop. I'm not friends with him. I'm not on a date with him. So I said, I don't know, I mostly keep to myself most of the time. And he's like, do you like movies? Or yeah, I was like, yeah, fine. And then he gets to this question, so what's your YouTube channel? And I'm like, really taken aback by this. I had no idea he was going to ask about a YouTube channel. I'm really not sure if one of my references mentioned that I had one for some idiotic reason. But, I didn't want to lie to a police officer, and if they did a thorough investigation, they might find out if I had a YouTube channel anyway. So I listed my combi channel, which is Filling the Void Reviews. I didn't list this channel, thank God, and I didn't list my other political channel. But I listed that channel, and he's like, okay, I'm going to go on and look at it and see what the videos are like. And I'm like, at this point, I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, what does this have to do with anything? This is my private life you're delving into. Yeah, and I did tell him about the YouTube channel, but I thought he was going to write it down, and, if something weird came up about me, he could look at it later or something, but I had no idea he was just going to search through it right then and there. So I was like, So he's like, what's the name again? And I told him, fill in the void reviews. And the guy didn't even know how to use YouTube, so I could have just made something up right there, I realized right after that. But, whatever, he came across my videos, and the first video he clicked on, it shows a guy with an orange toy gun as the thumbnail. Stockholm Syndrome. I'll leave a link if you take a look at it. It's probably one of my grossest sketches and most immature sketches, and it just so happens that that's the one he picked to look at. And it involves me drinking like a glass of urine, like not in real life, but a fake glass of urine, and me eating poop at the end. So going for pistol permit, and that's what he sees is a video of me drinking, having someone else drink a glass of my own urine, and me eating poop. So yeah, so that's the level of privacy that was violated during the pistol permit. He also asked me if my parents were divorced, which is none of his business, and why does that have to do with anything? And if they're still alive. I believe he asked if they did drugs and if I did drugs. And then when I told him they were divorced, he said, oh, what was the reason? I was fucking 5. I don't know. The reason was that my dad didn't listen enough and my mom was like, how the fuck would I know? I'm not gonna ask them. Like, I don't give a shit. And I told him that. I was like, I don't know. I was 5. And, you know, it's just, how is that a thorough investigation? How does that have to do with anything? But, once the YouTube part came along, it got really weird. And he's like, hey, you look a little nervous. And I'm like, well, I literally said this. I said, I didn't know this interview was going to be this intrusive. And he's like, yeah, well, it's an investigation. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't say this, but it's like, this has nothing to do with my ability to have a firearm or a pistol. Then after that, he launches into 2 lectures about gun safety. Even though I already told him I have a Mossberg shotgun, he's talking about how this old guy he knew, he was hunting in the woods and he saw something moving, shot at it, and it happened to be his daughter. And then there was 2 kids who got a gun. And, you know, one of them shot the other one by accident, all this stuff. This was lasting about 15 minutes of a lecture. So, at this point, there's nothing going on that has to do with me getting a pistol or me being a criminal. I'm just having to listen to this guy lecture. And he was polite to me the whole time. He was very civil. He wasn't a douche, but once you start launching to a lecture about gun safety to someone who already has a gun, and he didn't know this, I already have a gun channel, I already know gun safety, I have used a gun before, and I told him I had used a gun before. I'm not feeling like you're a police officer anymore. I'm feeling like you think you're my dad, and that's what's wrong with this country. We have a government that thinks they're your dad. So yeah, that really pissed me off. I tried to remain emotionless. And he said after the interview was over that the person in the video was a lot different from the person that was sitting across from him. And I said, yeah, well, I don't know you. What am I gonna be joking around with him the whole time? It's my ability to get a pistol depends on his investigation, which he then sends over to a judge who looks at that and decides, that one person decides if I can get a pistol in the state of New York. So I take it kind of seriously when I have to beg someone for my rights in New York State. So maybe that's why I seemed a little shy. I didn't tell him any of that, though. I was just trying to get it over with. And finally it was over. I went home, and I was just I was in a state of shock just because he had asked me about my YouTube channel, and he had dug through so many aspects of my life just to find out if I'm a criminal. And the stuff with have I ever committed a felony, have I ever done drugs, all that stuff, that's fine. And that's, if you did an actual federal background check, that would already find that information, so it's pointless. All the other information is irrelevant and it's a waste of time. I gotta mention this on my pistol permit. It asked me if I'd ever gotten fired from a job, and I figured, you know what, I'll be the honest person. And yes, when I was 17 years old, I worked at a convenience store. I got fired because a vendor came in with all the wrong shit. I just signed off on it. I didn't check the inventory. So my name was on it. We got all the wrong stuff. I was blamed for it. I was fired. And, I was 17 in college. First big job, I guess. Not even a big job, but first decent job I had where I had a good amount of responsibilities. I got fired from it for that reason. The place doesn't exist anymore. They don't have a number. The place, it was like a little franchise in Rhode Island. It went down. Nothing to do with my ability to have a pistol. Nothing to do with me being a criminal. I was fired 2004, almost 10 years ago. And 2 times he asked me why I was fired. 2 times, the same question. He asked me why I was fired. I explained it to him. 10 minutes later, why was I fired? Same exact question over again. Like, what if I had been like, oh, I was fired from a pizza place? Would that, my bad memory, would that disqualify me from getting a pistol? It was just ridiculous. So that was just a weird experience. Also, my references are all from, they were all coworkers. And apparently that wasn't good enough for this guy. He wanted like my girlfriend's parents' number and one of my friend's numbers because he didn't like the fact that I just had coworkers. And the reason is because I keep myself. I make videos, a bit of a homebody. So apparently in New York State, if you apply for a pistol permit, you better be an extrovert. You better be an outgoing person. You can't be an introvert at all because that's just weird that you wouldn't want to hang out with a bunch of people every night. So anyways, I'm just ranting and raving at this point. If you ask me I'm not going to say what county I live in just because I'm afraid of someone bothering me about where I live in regards to the pistol permit, like law enforcement. So if you want to ask me what county I live in, just send me a personal message. I'm pretty sure this is kind of like standard in New York State. I heard it's, obviously worse in New York City, but can you believe this shit? Like, the questions they asked me, they have nothing to do with anything. I was in an interview for an hour for no reason at all. Like, simple background checks, which they already did on me, already revealed all the information to this officer, but he had to ask me all the same questions over again, plus information about my personal life, which I think is really fucked up. Like, if you live in a state and they're considering like having like a permit process or anything like that, just please vote no on that, or don't vote in people who agree with gun control legislation that's like this, because this is horrible. New York State is anti-freedom. That's all I have to say.